Hi everyone, and welcome back. We're on to our next lesson. In this lesson, we'll continue where we left off. In the previous one, we continue with properties, but in this lesson, we continue with text. Now, how we work with text and things like that in CSS. Now, I've already this is our body tags, and then we obviously got our div, but let's just, instead of a div, we're just going to call it section. So, right, and we're going to add some. Let's give some dummy text of 100 dummy text because we're going to need that just in a second. But let's say our first one is color. Let's work with color. So, go like this. Right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to say 1, H2, and we want to give it some color. So how we change color in CSS, we'd say just write the word color, and then we're going to obviously, you can do it in hexadecimals. So X, let me just do 333, or like, let me just do greenish color. Go for that. Right, so you can use it in hexadecimal, you can choose it in HSL, or you're going to choose it in RGB. Whatever you're most comfortable with. I like to work in hexadecimal color. Kind of gives me a little bit more freedom, I feel. Your preference is preference, so you can choose how you want to use it. I use this. Right. So this is how we change the color, and what you can do is, as you can see, I tapped in any color I want. Black is obviously there, and white is obviously on the opposite side of the spectrum. So if we go into, let's say, hex right there, as you can see, right at the top corner right there, that's white. Right at the bottom, that's left. So on your left hand side. So right there at the bottom, as you can see, it's completely black, and on the top right there, that is white. Okay, so that's kind of the opposite side of the spectrums. And normally what I do is I just type in, for like I just did now, 333, or unless you know the color that you're looking for. But normally when you're designing things for clients, you will kind of have a color profile to work from. And then obviously you can type it in there. But for now, I'm just choosing any color I want. So let's quickly go into our browser to see how this looks like. As you can see, we changed our color to that right there. And the next thing that you can do, let me just, as you can see, if I type in the H1, you will see it will show the font weight, that, and if you go to the section that we actually put the color in, and place it on the H2, you will see that we have our color as well. And in this window in Firefox, what you can do is you can actually click on it, and you can actually move your color around to kind of play around with the colors that you might look for. And then you can just copy them from here and paste them inside your coding in your VS Code. But for us, let's choose this color just to kind of show an example. Change it to that. Let's copy it, that magenta-ish color. Copy. Let's go back to VS Code. As you can see, I pasted it in there as well. Alright, the next thing you can do is you can give it a background color of, let's say, light gray, EEE. It's kind of a light grayish color. And let's give it some padding. Since I just kind of want to let you guys get used to the properties. So 0.5 rem, right round. Okay, let's say 0.5, yeah, let's do 0.5 all around, or you can do 0.5 rem there, and we change this to 5 rem. Okay, so this is a quarter of 16 pixels. This is half of 16 pixels. So this is basically 8 pixels, and this is 4 pixels. All right. So let's quickly see how this looks like. Now, as you can see, we've given it a light gray color right there, and we have our color right there. Oh, that's very, very, very nice. Okay, let's move on from the coloring and go to the next property of text. All right. So the next property, let's go to VS Code quickly. The next property that we have is property called text align. So as you can see, I got one for center, but what you can have is you can have left, right, and obviously center. Right, so let's quickly align our text to the center. Now, as you can see, our text got aligned in the center. So there. As you can see, got our text align property right there, and it's aligned in the center. Easy peasy. All right. Okay, so while in this window, I just kind of want to show you, if you change this to left, you will see it's aligned to the left right there. And if you change it to right, like this, as you can see, it will be aligned to the right. But for us, what we're going to do now is we're going to just keep it at the center, because that's kind of how we save the property. And then we're going to just, as you can see, the reason why I added so much text here is we're going to see another property of text align, but we're going to do it on the paragraph. So let's quickly go to VS Code. Right. So as you can see, we got our class 1 and we have our p tag. So let's quickly go to 1 and p. So the next text align property that we can work with, it's called justify. Now what justify does is actually make sure that every line is equal with text, but better to kind of explain it is if we see how it looks like. Now as you can see, it kind of fill it right there. But let's quickly go to the p tag so I can show you. So if we remove it, you'll see what happens. And if we add the justify, it kind of fill it quite nice and neatly for us. All right. So normally that's what happened in newspapers and magazines. They kind of fill the text lines like that. And you can do that with the justify command. Text align, justify. All right. Very nice property to use. Right. But for us, let's continue to the next one. It's instead of text align, it's vertical align. So let's quickly see how that looks like. Right, so I am going to work with this one instead of text align. Let's keep our text align. We're going to do vertical align. So let's keep it. We've got 3 properties. We have top. You can see right there. And then we have middle. And we have bottom. But for us, let's go with bottom right now. Let's go to our browser. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put color there, and I'm going to put a span. And in the span, I'm just going to put bold, just as an example. So inside that, let's quickly see how that looks like. And in the browser, you can see we've got our span right there. I'm just going to give that span kind of a little bit more properties. Let's quickly do that. Just see, I can change the font size to maybe 8 pixels. So that will be half a rem. Okay, so let's do that. Right, so I copied that down. I'm just going to put the span, but I'm going to give its own color of gold. There. kind of choose my gold that I want. Yellowish, but I think that will be fine. I'd like to choose that, right? And then we can say vertical line bottom. So color, and let's do the font size. Font size, what did we say? Half a rem. Right. So this is kind of, let me just do this. Okay. So this is now our span. But before, let me just comment this out, just to show you how it looks like without the vertical align. Now, as you can see, that's it right there. Without vertical line, it's basically right at the bottom, right there. Okay. So let's add our vertical line at the bottom. As you can see, it moves up to there. And if we add the middle, let me change it here. So it's quite easier just to change it here so that you guys can see. In the middle, it will kind of move to the middle. And let's go to the top. As you can see, it moved right to the top. Now you might be wondering, but why is it not completely at the top? The reason for that is because we added some padding to this. So if we remove the padding, you see it moves right to the top part of the element right there. And if we go, let's just change this to bottom. As you can see, it moved right to the flat bottom right there. Okay, so the middle will be in the middle of this element that we have of our h2 tag. So basically, this is the whole box of that unit. So it moves within that box. It will actually move to the bottom, the center, or the top of that box that element is. Okay, so our h2 element. Right, so that is basically, I'll finish with the alignment. So let's move to our next unit. Let me refresh that quickly. Okay, so let's quickly go to VS Code. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to play around with the decoration. So the next part that we have is called text decoration. Alright, so before we do that, in the previous lesson, what we have done is we learned about, let's say you have an A tag, that the default styling is an underline, and then you will just do text decoration of none. So what that happens is it removes the underline from your text, right? But for this lesson, we will just continue from that, and then we're going to put a text decoration of overline. So let's quickly do an overline and see how that looks like. Right, so let's open our browser. As you can see, our overline is this line right there on top. So I can think, let me remove the gold span part of it because we don't longer need it. Right, so this was just for demonstration purposes. So let me remove it. That obviously close this off. Right, so I just removed its styling as well. Alright, so we have our overline right there. Let me just increase it a little bit. We got our overline. The next thing what we can do is, so that's our overline on top. The next one we have is line through. So we can just kind of preview it, line through. So as you can see, it does that. Obviously, the next one that we have is underline. So it's the kind of text decorations that we have. Right. The next one that we're going to be dealing with is text transformation. So what we can do is, let me do this in VS Code. Right. So that we got, let's keep the overline there. The next thing that we have is called transformation. Right, so what we're going to do is we call it text transform. Right, so as you can see, capitalized already popped up there. So that's kind of the default for, not really, because I typed it like that. So let's keep that lowercase. So right, so let's quickly capitalize it. So what happens is, with capitalize, it capitalized the first letter. So let's see how that looks like. Now, as you can see, the C got capitalized, and if you go to our preview window right here, you can see it's lowercase, but it capitalized it right there. The next one that we have is lowercase, it lowers it, and the other one is called uppercase. And uppercase just makes everything capital letters. Alright, so that's a text transformation. So text transform, uppercase, capitalize, and lowercase letters. Alright, so in this one we're going to work with spacing. Now the first thing that you're going to do is, if you can see, we got our paragraph text, our dummy text right there. But normally, if you can see in magazines, this part is kind of, the first sentence is kind of indented a little bit. Like it's this kind of words start from this side instead of starting from the start. So how do we do that in CSS? Now in order to do that, what you can actually do is called text indent. So what you do is text indent. So you can say, no, I want to start 30 pixels. Well, let's say 2 rem. Let's just call it 2 rem. So I want you guys to get used to that unit. So the text indent is 2 rem. So let's see how this looks like in the browser. As you can see, that part right there is indented. And if we want to make it a little bit bigger, we can preview it. We can make it 4. So then you can kind of have that first indent right there. Right. So the next thing that we, in spacing, that we deal with is called letter spacing. So as you can see, the spacing just gets bigger and bigger. But before I do that, press this. Alright, so let's go to VS Code quickly and remove the justify right there, because it will kind of mess up this spacing right here. Okay, so let's quickly do that. We're here right now, so let's delete this and quickly add. Alright, so we can add letter spacing. So we can add letter spacing of, let's say, 2 pixels. Get 5 pixels, kind of something ridiculous. You can have a positive letter spacing and you can have a negative spacing. But let's quickly stick to the positive and show you how that looks like in the browser. So let's go. As you guys can see in our DevTools, you will see we got our spacing here of 5 pixels. So as you can see, that's just to kind of give you guys an idea. Section right there. So obviously you can change the spacing however you want. So go to the paragraph. As you can see, it's on 5 pixels. If we change it to negative 5 pixels, that's kind of how it would look like. You cannot read it, but just to let you know that you can go in the negative if you want. So that's at negative 2 at the 1 at the moment. So let's see what would look better. Go to 1. So 1 pixels, one spacing of 1 pixel looks okay-ish. Alright, the next property that we have is we call line height. So if you type in, let's go to VS Code. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to 1 pixel because it's it looks okay. I won't say it looks good. And then the other one is line. So the line height, what we're going to do is we're going to do a line height of 2 pixels. Okay, so let's see how this looks like. So there's our line height right there. Everything is smushed up together. But what we can do in our DevTools, we can kind of see how much distance we want to give between our text. You see the line height, how big the line must be. All right. So for us, it looks like 26 pixels will be just fine. Okay, so then we can just change the line height in our VS Code to 26 pixels. Okay, so let's see how that looks like. Right, so we change it to line height to 26 pixels. So, all right, so that's it. So it looks all good. So we saved it in VS Code. So if you can see the paragraph, the line height is there as well. So the next property, all right, the next property that we have is called word spacing. It kind of, it's the property kind of say what it does. So for us, let's change the word spacing to something ridiculous, 10 pixels. Okay, let's change it to 10 pixels. Let's see how it looks. Right, as you can see, the space between the words right there, that word, that spacing right there is 10 pixels. And we can obviously change this. Let's change it to 5 or change it to 20. As you can see, that's how you can get spacing between words. Right, the next property. All right, so the next property would be called text shadow. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a 3 pixel try go for something dark, black. Let's just go like that. Let's see how that looks like. As you guys can see, we added a text shadow on our H2. You can see it right there. What we have is we give 3 pixels. So let's change that to 0 and you will see. Down, so it doesn't move to the right or to the left. So if you put -2, it moves to the left by 2 pixels. And if you put 5, you move negative pixels to the right. So 0 is dead center, and 0 right there is kind of dead center as well. So this is your top. Let me just kind of show you guys. This is top and bottom, 0 and 0. This one is top, left and right. This one is top and bottom. So positive number here, 2 pixels, moves it to the right. Negative number moves it to the left. So -5 moves it very far away. And -5 moves it to the top. +5 moves it to the bottom. Okay. Right, so there's another properties as well. Let me just quickly show you. Right, on this one it's called blur. It's better to show you guys. So let's add 5 pixels there. So let's quickly go to our browser. So as you can see, it blurred the background a bit. So let's go. As you can see, we have 3 pixels, and that means everything, this is to the right and down. So let me just blur that a little bit less, make it 2. As you can see, it gets, see? So for the higher the number, higher the pixels, the more it blurs as well. Okay, so that brings us to an end of this lesson. I was kind of rushing it because it's getting a bit too long. It's almost at 25 minutes. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson where we're going to be dealing with backgrounds. And thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you disliked the video, please give it a dislike, and some constructive feedback in the comment section of what you think we can improve on the lesson and stuff like that. The format of this lesson is kind of to keep things casual, to make it kind of easier to learn and not so stiff. And yes, all right, so that you guys can see my mistakes or things like that as well. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Cheers, bye.